It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. I'm excited to talk with my guest today. Joining me, James Carbary. James is...
I'm sorry about that.
There you go. You almost think it's the James Carbary Show. Gosh. And that's okay. So
I'm so sorry.
Let me finish.
Okay.
So James is a principal in, here we are. We're so organized. He's a principal in Sweetfish Media. It's a company that helps B2B companies develop relationships with their ideal clients and more. And he'll talk about some tools they use to help companies do that. He's also a co-host of the B2B Show, a podcast about B2B sales and marketing, on which I've been honored to be a guest, and maybe I'll be a guest again at some point.
Yeah.
So, James, welcome to Accelerate.
Thank you so much, Andy. Really excited to be here, man.
Good. So, after you've jumped all over my introduction, introduce yourself. Tell people all about you.
Yeah. So Andy, I founded Sweetfish about a year and a half ago, and we started off as a content writing shop. So we were writing a lot of blog content for different clients, and realized about 10 months into it that there was this really effective way of creating relationships with your ideal client, particularly in a B2B context. And so we shifted back in October of 2015 and started producing niche podcasts for B2B companies so that they could position themselves in a way to connect with their ideal clients by inviting those ideal clients to be guests on their show. So that is what we are up to now.
Perfect. So have you ever interviewed Todd Schnick?
I have not had Todd Schnick, so I'm writing his name down right now, though.
You should. He's been doing that type of business for quite some time. So, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about podcasts and sales, and it's sort of interesting. Talk about with companies about is a podcast really a sales tool for them as companies? They tend to think about podcasters being like guys like me that have written books and we speak and we've got people and we're talking about opinions and so on. But actually, it's a great way to generate prospects. So let's talk about that. Is it a good sales tool?
I think it is absolutely a good sales tool because of its ability for you to create an organic relationship with someone. And so in the B2B world, the world that we live in, the lifetime value of each of your clients is probably pretty high. And so when what we like to tell our clients, if your lifetime value is more than $25,000, then it is well worth the effort to lay the framework of a real relationship with someone before you go to their, kind of go straight to their throat with your offer and making a pitch. So instead of doing that you can ask somebody to be on your show, give them an opportunity to share what they're doing with your audience. You also have an opportunity to create great content for your website. If you turn that into a blog post or, post on LinkedIn or Medium, and the biggest benefit is now you have that relationship with the person that you ultimately would hope to do business with.
All right. So let's just deconstruct that again for people that maybe you jumped right into it. Is a podcast, which some people think is something that may be very complex and technical, which really actually isn't these days, is you think about it just as one more piece of content like your blog or like some marketing piece you may have, an ebook or something you have on your website. But it's, as you said, it's a lot more interactive, more organic, a little bit longer form.
Yep.
And we'll get back to the idea of the longer form. It's a way, let's say you have people on your list or people on your mail list or come to your website, visitors that come fairly regularly. Yeah, it's a real different experience listening to somebody in your company talk to an existing customer or potentially a new customer, what they've done with your company and other things they're working on than they could get from anything they can read.
Yep, exactly. It's a much more intimate way of someone consuming your brand. When they hear your voice, and the nature of podcasts is that they would subscribe and they're listening to it every week, or how, whatever the frequency is. I know your show is 5 days a week. Ours is 7 days a week. So depending on the frequency by which you do your podcast, it's just a way for you to, it's a really effective way of building trust because someone is actually hearing your voice.
Excellent. So let's sort of break down how it works. So how do you work with a company to help them build their podcast, and really what's the decisions they should make, whether they need one or not, or should you do one or not, as opposed to where they can invest their time otherwise?
Yeah, so I always suggest if the lifetime value of your customer is more than $25,000, I think it's absolutely worth the investment to do it. And what we do, we kind of dedicate the first month of working with a client to just getting the show launched. So you want to really establish the brand for the show. And there's a little bit of art in this, because what you want the show to be able to position you to do is to reach out to your ideal client. So think through, if your ideal client is a COO, maybe you could do a show around maybe called the operations executive. And so you want the show to be centric around who you're trying to connect with. And the show needs to be a platform for them to be able to share their wisdom, their insights on the show. And so typically your ideal client is coming on to speak to other people in that space that could learn from their wisdom. And so if you were to do the operations executive show, that when you reach out to a COO, now you're not asking them, hey, buy my thing. You're saying, hey, I've got a show called the Operations Executive. I saw your LinkedIn profile. I think you'd be a great fit for the show. I'd love to feature you on it. Is it something you'd be interested in? And they're much more likely to say yes. With that. So getting the brand right for the show on the front end and really nailing that, I think is super important.
Okay. So who hosts it typically?
Yeah, so our clients host their shows. We do all of the kind of prospecting. We find the people that should be ideal guests for them, AKA ideal clients for them, and then we do all of the emails back and forth with the guests to set those up, and the client actually hosts it. So it's either one of the founders, or it's the VP of sales, or the VP of business development. It's someone, the person that is really like wanting to nurture the relationship with this person. So that's who we suggest hosting it.
Do you have to train them?
We go through in the first month. We've got kind of a podcast handbook that we've put together that goes over some best practices, some different things that you can do in the pre-interview to really set yourself up to succeed with it. And that's been really helpful for our clients since we started doing this, because I think Andy, you and I do this all the time, and so I think I took for granted that there is an art to being able to facilitate a really great conversation. And so there's several different points. It could probably be a whole nother episode on how you do the pre-interview to really set yourself up to succeed in the interview. But it's the long and short of it is you want to go, by the time you get into the interview, you want to have a very documented idea, like written down on a notepad next to your laptop, kind of, hey, this is the direction we'd like to go with the show, particularly with folks that are new at it and aren't as comfortable just kind of going on the fly. We've got one client who's really comfortable behind a mic, and he doesn't necessarily need to do that, but a lot of our clients do. They just like having, okay, we're going to talk about these three things, and all I know that I've got to kind of play point guard, and I'm just going to get the conversation from one point to the next. And when you have it outlined like that, it really takes a lot of the anxiety away.
Okay, so what you're saying is you work with the clients to help them come up with that outline, or you develop that outline for them, but on an episode-to-episode basis, they're taking care of that themselves.
Yeah, they're conducting the actual interview themselves, and we're basically setting them up for success by kind of giving them an outline, like, hey, here are the 3 to 5 things that this guest wants to talk about.
So you're doing the pre-interview as part of your service.
Yeah, well, we're not doing the pre-interview. We're going back and forth via email. And so we've figured out a lot of the pre-interview elements via email, so that whenever they get on their pre-interview, it's just really confirming what we've talked about in the email. Hey, these are the three things. Can you expand on this a little bit just so I have an understanding? So when we start recording, I can sound kind of educated as it relates to this particular thing that you were wanting to talk about. So the pre-interview is usually only about 5 minutes, and a lot of our clients, our show is 12 to 15 minutes. And so that's where I kind of push a lot of our clients to do a little bit shorter form, 12 to 15 minutes with a 5-minute pre-interview, puts it at about a 20-minute commitment for the person that they're inviting to be on the show.
That's very reasonable. So what sort of frequency do you
we
tell people
do
they should do this on?
Yeah, we've been doing weekly podcasts for folks. I can see us shifting into a model where we charge a little bit more and do maybe a 3-day a week for the folks that want to get really crazy, like you and me, maybe 5-day a week or 7-day a week down the road once we've really dialed in our processes and feel like our internal team could handle that. Because we're figuring it out with ours. I mean, we just shifted to 7 days a week, and there's just a lot of elements involved in that. And so that down the road, I could see us possibly doing that. But right now, we're producing weekly shows for our clients. And
you do the editing and everything? All the post-production?
We've got we've got the audio engineers on our team that are doing all of the post-production and that kind of technical stuff on the back end.
So from a technical standpoint, and are you hosting them on because for people who don't know, on podcasts, there's a host that you contract with. So do you do all that for them, set that all up, or they have their own accounts for that?
Yeah, they have their own accounts, but we set it all up. So we actually pay for it up until the point where, if they decide down the road they don't want to, they want to do it in-house or manage it in-house, then we just switch over the credit card. So we actually cover all the hosting and take care of all that. So they really don't have to mess with any of the detail.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, so I think for people out there and Accelerate listeners that are listening to this, I've had other conversations that'll be airing here. One at the same time as James' interview here is podcast as a sales tool. As you think about it, you need to be creating content, good, meaningful, relevant content for people that are interested in buying your product or your service. And for so many companies, sitting in front of a computer screen and trying to think, oh gosh, I got to type a blog this week. What am I going to talk about? Very daunting. Yeah. Very daunting. So you think about a podcast, it's actually you're just talking, and you're talking about something something you're interested in.
Exactly.
It becomes very powerful. So this is an interesting tool people should consider adding to their content mix, because it works. It works.
Yeah, I mean, for the folks that we're working with, we've got a team of copywriters, and we're taking their podcast interviews and we're turning them into blog posts. And so for Accelerate listeners, if you decide, hey, I want to try to do this on my own, if you've got a copywriter that you work with or someone on your team that writes copy, it's so much easier for a copywriter to take an interview and not necessarily transcribe it. I don't know that those are super effective in the transcriptions that I've seen, that it can be a little bit harder to ingest that type of content. But if they have kind of a framework, we've got a really cool blog post kind of checklist that we use of different, what goes into a really good blog post. If they've got something like that they use, they can take that interview and then turn it into really good written content that can be repurposed all over the place.
Yeah. Trying to read the transcript and the spoken word is not the same as reading a well-written piece. It doesn't flow the same way. Yeah, actually, we stopped offering transcripts because, I thought they were of limited value. So, very cool. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and keep on talking to my guest, James Carbary. Hi, this is Andy. Connect and Sell is used by sales reps at nearly 1,000 companies, including hundreds of technology startups and several Fortune 500 companies, to overcome the challenges of getting prospects on the phone. Companies using Connect and Sell grow their revenues faster by enabling their sales reps to have more sales conversations in 90 minutes than they could otherwise achieve in an entire week. Connect and Sell can be deployed directly to your sales reps, or you can take advantage of their outbound on-demand service, which delivers qualified prospect meetings scheduled directly on your sales reps' calendars. Visit connectandsell.com to learn more about how Connect and Sell can start filling your pipeline today. Okay, we're back talking with James Carbary. We just covered why you, as a sales organization, as a company, should consider having your own podcast. And James will give you more information later about how you can contact them about the business they do of helping companies build that up. So with your business to business podcast, I mean, you're out there in the market, you're learning a lot about sales and so on. I mean, what's your sense? Where is people sort of struggling the most these days?
Yeah, that's a great question, Andy. I've been talking to a lot of folks around cold email. I feel like that's a theme that has come up a lot. We were just talking to Heather Morgan from salesfolk.com yesterday. And we were talking, I feel like I've talked to, I think episode 14, we talked to Will Dinkle about kind of personalization in your cold emails. And yeah, I think that's something that people are getting a lot better with. I think they're understanding that when your SDRs are sending cold outreach, that there needs to be a cadence to it. You need to be adding value in every email that you're sending out, and the copy needs to be much more conversational in tone, and as opposed to someone getting an email from you and it just looking like they got added to your newsletter because you're just vomiting more of a marketing message in what's intended to be a one-to-one email. And so that topic's been coming up a lot with us anyway.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, the topic sort of goes along with that, is sort of another wave that's coming of people saying that, cold email is just overdone. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good you are at it, is that the volume of emails is just too much. People are just hitting delete automatically, and that really we got to be phone based. I mean, more and more people are saying the most important sales tool that exists today is not some app, it's the phone.
Interesting. We've done a couple interviews with folks that are touting the cold call, like go back to cold calling, like it's not dead, keep doing it. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's a theory that is very alive and well. And if you're seeing success with it, I mean, go for it. I think the biggest thing, Andy, is just, measure your cold email, measure your cold calls, and across the spectrum of your team, what's delivering results, double down on and continue to put the effort into optimizing those efforts. And so yeah, I would say we probably haven't talked to as many people that have talked about cold calling as we have folks that have mentioned kind of how they're winning with cold email, but it's definitely I think it's still very alive today.
Well, yeah, I mean, without being too cynical, everybody says they're winning with cold email. So, and it's open debate whether they really are or not, right? Because if you look at the SaaS industry and what they claim as sort of their target conversion rates, they're exceedingly low. I mean, it's all based on quantity. There's very little out there about quality, and all these applications enable you to do personalization. So, notwithstanding, given sort of the numbers crunch and the pressure that the SDRs are under to hit certain targets, that falls by the wayside.
Yep.
And so, even with people like Heather and others that are really great experts at this, it doesn't translate. It's still people out there burning through lots of companies to try to, because it's a volume based.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head with the spray and pray mentality, where folks will get a list of 10,000 leads and they go out and they email 10,000 of them with the same carbon copy message. And when they get 100 people to respond, they're like, oh yeah, look, we got 100 people to respond. And it's like, yeah, but you just burned 9,900 potential people that could work with you because you had lackluster messaging. But the response,
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I mean, the response to most people, though, is when they get that 100 responses of 1,000 or 10,000 emails is, well, okay, next time, what are we going to do to get 101?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the mentality. It's not let's send out 200.
Yep.
And let's really target. Let's really narrow. Let's focus down. But even in the cases where that is happening, you see some SDRs and some inside sales environments where, okay, you've got, as an SDR, you're responsible for 300 logos that you're supposed to be developing and nurturing. As you put them in your cadence and you burn through them in a week, and then what?
Then what? Yeah.
And I've talked to a number of VPs of sales from inside sales organizations that are starting to see this artifact, this thing occurring, is that this model has sort of got a weakness there.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's still a person buying from a person, yet we're sort of exhausting these individuals with everything that happens before they even get a chance to talk to a person.
Yep. Yep. And that's just another case for why a podcast can be so powerful, because it's just a different means of, it's just a different means of reaching out to someone instead of reaching out and asking them to, set up a demo or, with the variety of kind of sales call to actions that we have in our email campaigns. If you're reaching out to someone and asking them to be a guest on your show, it's a different ask. There's not a lot of people asking your ideal clients to be a guest on their show, and because of the novelty of it right now, at least, in a couple of years, that may the tide may change, and that may be something that marketers latch onto, and marketers ruin everything.
Yeah.
But right now, man, we've been seeing really, really great response with it, and so have our clients, and I think, but I totally agree, man, that there is a gaping flaw in cold email, particularly where, there's so many different elements that you can screw up. And when you're having an entire sales organization say, you say, hey, here are these 10,000 leads, go. There's just so many variables that can be screwed up, and if you're not attentive to those, they will be screwed up, and your campaign's not going to be effective. We've
all done it.
Yep.
So yeah, I wouldn't claim to be an expert by any stretch. Far from it. But yeah, I rely on people like Heather and other experts. I read her blog and so on to help you with us. So one other point I was going to make is sort of interesting, because we're sort of talking about this. There's the lack of the personal. Right? The email is one step removed in terms of really being personalized compared to cold outreach on the phone, let's say.
Yeah.
Which again, some people. We've got one of the great things about this business and sales is we've got, I guess, like anything in life, maybe like politics and so on, we got people on the polar extremes that have very strong opinions to make it very interesting to sort of carve out a middle ground. But one thing, you had just an interview with my friend Jim Keenan.
Yeah.
And you had talked about, and he's been on my show twice, and you had talked about, or he had talked about that, the buyers don't need to like you.
Mm.
And
sounds very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is did he fundamentally misunderstand what the like means in sales?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it seemed like more of a response to talking to a lot of people whose product just really wasn't going to add value. And I think after Jonathan and I got done with that interview, we were unpacking it and talking about, people don't need to like you, but it definitely doesn't hurt when they like you. But I think the focus of what Keenan was talking about in that interview was really more on like making sure that what you're selling adds a tremendous amount of value to who you're reaching out to with it, because that value matters way more than whether the person likes you or not. I still think that that's important for sales folks to be liked. But I think adding value is the number one priority.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic, because I think people maybe Jim did as well, but I think people misunderstand what it means to be what the like. If you say, hey, people buy from people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
The like isn't. Think about it in grade school. You'd say, hey, did you like this girl, or did you like this girl, right? This whole thing is, and your customers don't need to like you. They just need to not dislike you, right?
Yeah.
It's like a positive what I call a positive neutrality is what they need to feel about you.
Interesting. Yep.
So that is liking. It's not, I want to have a relationship with this person, I want to go out to lunch with you, I want to play golf with you, but they're going to be positively neutral about you, as opposed to actively disliking you.
And going back to the cold email, like talking about cold email, I think that's I was talking with Heather yesterday about how she's saying that statistically folks should be sending eight follow-ups, I think it is, And and she's like, but the problem is people are sending these 8 email cadences, and the emails are awful, and so people end up hating you before you ever get the chance to get them to agree to be on a demo because you've annoyed them so much. And so you've done the exact opposite of what you were just talking about. You've made them dislike you, and they haven't even been on the phone with you yet.
Yeah, I think that quite frankly, I think my opinion is that because I sign up for stuff all the time because this is my business. I want to get these emails. I want to see what they say. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there are many of them in there that are written by extreme pros at this. And the fact is that after the first 2, I hate them all anyway.
Yep.
I mean, it's so rarely that anyone comes out with a sequence that I find compelling enough to read beyond the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a challenge. I think the challenge for us as a sales industry and marketers and so on is how do you really engage? Because I know there's a lot of great content's written, but it's extremely rare. I mean, we're talking less than 5% of them, which is a pretty low statistic of those that pass that bar that say, the first one is so interesting that when the second one comes, I want to read it, even though I'm not intending to buy it. So that I'm compelled enough to even open up what the second one and see what the message is.
Yep, exactly. And the messaging that I was talking about with Heather, that's not even that. Those emails aren't even coming because you signed up for something. Those emails are coming from an SDR who just identified you as a potential as a prospect and started emailing you without you opting into anything. So you're already kind of on shaky ground because you're emailing someone that didn't raise their hand and say, I want to hear from you.
Yeah. Like I said, you already dislike them, and I mean and so we start thinking about this know, like, and trust is that is so often not considered in these cold emails that are sent. Is how do you begin to engage at that level? People learn something through the email, that they understand something about you. I mean, I just spoke to somebody interviewed to talk about when their emails, people, their sales reps, SDRs film short little videos they associate and attach to the emails that go out. So the customer gets a chance to say, hi, this is Andy, and I know you've interrupted your day to look at this video, but I just want to tell you why I'm reaching out to you. Here's here's our value proposition, or how they position it in a minute and a half. And whoa, that's a great differentiator right there. Yep. That's a chance to be compelling. And it's in an email. So, all right, well, good stuff. So we're going to move to the last segment of my show. I know you've been looking forward to this. Standard questions I ask all my guests. And
love it.
Yeah, I know. See, you love it. The first one is this hypothetical scenario posed to all my guests. You've just been hired as the new sales leader at a company whose the wheels have fallen off, and they want to get the wheels back on and back headed in a positive direction. CEO is really anxious for things to happen. So what 2 things would you do on your first week on the job that would have the biggest impact?
First 2 things I would do the first week on the job that would have the biggest impact. I think I would do. I would do a deep dive on what our processes are around prospecting for our outbound team. Like how are we identifying who we need to go after? Mm-hmm. And then I think the second piece of that would be then really dialing in what is that messaging around how we're reaching out to them, whether it be, is it a cold call message? Is it a cold email message? Is it, how are we reaching out to them? And I think by doing those 2 things, I think we've just kind of really started to document our prospecting process internally for our business. And I think it's made such a huge difference for us. So those would be the 2 things that I would focus on.
Okay. That's a good answer. I mean, documenting your process is so key. So few companies do it. They take things for granted, and you should never presume as a sales leader that anything is happening that's not documented. All right, good. So now some rapid fire questions. You can give me 1-word answers, or you can elaborate if you wish. First one is, when you, James Carbary, are out selling your products and services, what's your most powerful sales attribute?
My most powerful sales attribute. I think for me personally, I have the ability to instead of just going straight for the sale, because I have I have a show, so I can instantly off the bat create this relationship with the person, because I can say, hey man, I'd love to have you on our show to talk about, whatever it is that we were talking, if I met them in person and we got to talking about something sales related. I have an easy way to add depth to that relationship beyond the first interaction. And the podcast allows me to do that. So I think that's probably the biggest attribute there.
So the podcast.
Yep.
Okay. See, we could have had a one-word answer, our podcast. So.
All right. I'll learn. I'll get better with this next one.
I'm sorry, giving you a hard time. So the second question is, who's your sales role model?
Gary Vaynerchuk.
Excellent answer. What's one book every salesperson should read?
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Great book. Still extremely relevant. I have my clients read it. Great answer. Here's the tough question of the day then. So, gosh, what music are you listening to on your playlist these days?
Oh man, I'm gonna shame myself right here, but I've been listening to Justin Bieber's new album and just crushing it.
I'm laughing because I have to admit I've not really liked any of his earlier stuff, but I like some of the things on this one too.
His new album, man, like it's been rocking my world since like February or March, I think. It's had some staying power in my playlist for sure.
Yeah, he's grown up.
Yep, he has.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, well, James, thanks for being on the show. Tell people how they can find out more about you.
Yeah, so you can go to sweetfishmedia.com and check out what we're doing there. You can check out our podcast at b2bgrowthshow.com, or you can shoot me an email, james@sweetfishmedia.com. I'd love to connect with anybody and help out anyone that has any questions about this stuff. I'd love adding value in whatever way I can.
All right, so really, last question. What is a sweet fish?
So I am obsessed with Swedish Fish, the candy, and I was in a mad dash to try to find a domain that aligned with my love for Swedish Fish, and Sweet Fish is where we landed.
I love it. Perfect. I love those Swedish fish as well. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, friends, thanks, James. Remember, thanks again for being on the show. And remember, friends, make it a part of your day every day to deliberately learn something new to help you accelerate your success. And one easy way to do that is to make this podcast, Accelerate, a part of your daily routine, whether it's listening on your commute, in the gym, or as part of your morning sales meeting. That way you won't miss any of my conversations with top business experts like my guest today, James Carbary, who shared his expertise about how to accelerate the growth of your business. So thanks for joining me. Until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.